€100,000 per week? No, that can't be right. That can't be right. €320,000 for the fireman's rest? Boy, am I in the wrong line of work. But hey, you've got to spend money to make money, right? At least that seems to be the state's mantra. Spend, spend, spend. But if we're spending so much, why is everything so shit? Why are the guards burnt out if it's a job worth doing? Where are the nurses, the doctors? Why can't we build anything, and when will we fix the health service? The answer to these questions is empowering, and the solution is bold. But bold it must be, because we are in a state of perpetual decline. And unless we take a massive course correction, Ireland will continue limping towards self-inflicted ruin. And this time, we can't even blame the English. Rising crime, broken hospitals, planning chaos, leaking pipes. These are symptoms, not the cause. And unless we fix the root, the rot will only spread. Ireland isn't collapsing from colonisation or famine this time. We're collapsing from something quieter, dysfunction. The entire country needs to be re-energised, a total shift in direction, because if we don't, we're not just stuck. I'm afraid we're finished. Michael Collins would be wincing with disappointment if he saw the ditch we've ended up in. And how did we even end up in this ditch? What have we been doing with the 100 years of independence? How did we get here? Well, let's follow the money. In 2015, Ireland's total government expenditure was €54 billion. Last year, it had more than doubled to €110 billion. And it's us who pay for this. There's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Our population growth can't sustain this explosion in the cost of delivering services, especially when the quality of those services is oh so questionable. Well, I say oh so questionable, I think really we can say they're totally in the gutter. So where is all the money going? We're spending double the amount of money in the last decade and the services are only getting worse. It's not going to frontline guards, it's not going to nurses, it's not going to teachers. It's stuck in the middle. In the murky world of civil service excess, a shadowy force exists, unseen by the public, untouched by urgency. If you need a 5-year strategy to avoid delivering something, if the feasibility study had its own feasibility study, and if you can't find the person who's responsible, maybe you've encountered the mid-level management team. And they're everywhere. A foggy malaise of titles and teams, high-cost, low-output agendas drifting through the system like bureaucratic tumbleweed. Not because they're needed, but because the system rewards upward drift. The front line gets crushed, the middle gets comfortable, and the public left waiting, wondering, and paying for the privilege. We've got government organisations like the RSA spending €900,000 on an ad that was deemed offensive, as if there was nobody in that entire chain between the ad was conceived and the ad was put out that might have seen this and said, maybe there's a problem here. But if you didn't see it, the message was simple. If you don't drive, you're a burden. That's a twisted irony coming from a government department, effectively admitting how unusable our public transport is. Did nobody in TFI see this ad before the RSA released it? I guess not. Fáilte Ireland's budget is €90 million a year, but demand for Irish tourism is already beyond supply. There aren't enough rooms in the country to host the tourists. So do they need €90 million to coax more people to come here? Nope. Maybe 10% of that would do. It's a concept I like to call agility. It isn't about cuts for the sake of cuts. It's about clarity, outcomes, and value for money. Instead of increasing a department's budget every year without question, we look at the real world and ask, does this make sense? Bord Bia burns through millions every year. Is it worth it? Absolutely not. Their mission creep now includes making cooking videos on social media. And guess who's footing the bill? It was never quite funny, and now it's dangerous. People are literally dying because state-run services are so bad. We've got nothing to be proud of. I grew up knowing nothing but total state dysfunction. And now everybody's emigrating. The writing's on the wall, I'm afraid. Oh, but Kevin, I hear you say, what's the root of all of this, and can it be fixed? Well, there is some truth to the old saying, throw enough money at a problem and you'll fix it. But in our case, we need to do that in reverse. We need to throw money at the civil service to shrink it. Generous redundancies, voluntary and mandatory, gracious golden handshakes. Let them leave with their head held high, Mr. President. We've just been handed €14.3 billion from Apple, including interest. The luck of the Irish, eh? I guess there was a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow after all. Sure, it's a once-off windfall, and yes, it's tied up in legal knots, but if that kind of money isn't enough to reboot a broken system, then what is? That kind of money could save the country by reforming our civil sector, but I have a sneaking suspicion that it will be used in much less creative ways than that. With the right will, we could rebalance the system in 5 years, starting with pay. Right now, if you want to earn more in the civil service, you have to move up. You have to leave the front line. And that's how we end up with empty wards and full boardrooms. We need a proper salary progression for people actually doing the work, not just moving up the ladder to manage those doing it. The impact of the imbalance is everywhere. Overcrowded classrooms, burnt out Gardaí, hospitals short-staffed and overstretched. By fixing the pay structure and letting mid-level managers exit gracefully with a check and a thank you, we restore equilibrium. But equilibrium alone won't save us. We need more than a wage shuffle. We need to restructure the state from the bottom up. We need to swap our centralised top-down model for one that's locally driven, where power and funding are handed back to local authorities so they can lead on their own terms, from policing to housing and everything in between. Local authorities used to have more control, and maybe it was a mixed bag. Motor tax was collected and spent locally, but in the early 2000s, the state centralised it and divvied out the revenue. The idea was fairness, but the general sentiment is that road quality hasn't improved, and councils have lost that sense of direct responsibility. Hell, I even have 3 potholes in my living room. It's the same with housing, grants and other functions. A mix of poor performance, patchy service levels and political mistrust led to powers being centralised. The logic was simple. Local councils are too inconsistent or inefficient, so we'll centralise it, standardise it and professionalise it. That's why Susie was created, to manage student grants nationally. But really, I think we've just swapped local dysfunction for distant dysfunction, unaccountable and slower moving. This isn't about romanticising councils, it's about giving them the tools, targets and accountability they've never had. Sure, we've had the €320,000 fireman's rest restoration, the robot trees. God, I said some awful things about the robot trees and now they're gone and I never had a chance to say goodbye. Always be careful, you never know when it's the last time you're going to be speaking to someone. But the central state, sorry I digress, the central state is hardly a model of efficiency either. The dysfunction is the same, only the scale is grander. €1 million printer that can't fit in the building, that one's a personal favourite of mine. The €350,000 bike shed, the €1 million security hut, to name just a few. Centralisation hasn't fixed anything. All it's done is gut local ambition and slow everything down. Take planning, for example. Councils used to have more of a final say. Now on board Planola can override them. It's taken 100 years to get to this point, and now we're relishing in it. We have one of the best planning systems in the world, and you know it when people hundreds of kilometres away from your home are making the decisions. It feeds this feeling that locals really have no control over their area. It's the same with flood relief schemes. The OPW comes in with a plan, ignores local input gleefully, and the council just has to go along with it. The Blackpool Culvert Plan is a perfect example. The locals objected, the city has policies against it, and it was still forced through until the Save Our Bride Otters campaign legally challenged it. Inefficiency was used to justify centralisation, but centralisation hasn't led to better outcomes, it's just added another layer of distance. Local authorities might have had problems, in fact we can say they probably definitely had, but at least they were reachable. Now decisions are remote and faceless. But power alone isn't enough for local authorities. They need structure, and structure needs support. If we want local authorities to actually succeed, we need to give them 3 things. The thing that we've ignored the longest in the governmental departments is accountability. So we have accountability, and then we need to give them something that we've been afraid to give them, which is empowerment. And the last one, which unlocks the first 2, is technology. Accountability keeps people honest, it drives things forward, technology keeps systems efficient, and empowerment gives people the authority, trust, and freedom to act. And this is where tech and data can really unlock localism. Imagine if local councils were judged by clear public-facing performance metrics. housing delivery times, road maintenance response rates, planning approval timelines, even citizen satisfaction scores. All of these could be visible through a national dashboard with technology we didn't have 20 years ago. It's already the done thing in countries like Estonia, Sweden, Taiwan, and various US states. If a town's housing team is delivering in half the time of another, everyone can see it. And that transparency alone creates pressure to improve. And crucially, when something fails, whether it's a grant not processed, a park neglected, someone needs to be held responsible. Not a vague department or a faceless body. A name, a team, a missed target. We could also build in participatory tools, let people flag local issues through apps, track progress, and give feedback on public services in real time. It's about creating a loop between people and the system again. So we could absolutely bring these services back. Give citizens the feeling that their hometown isn't a rudderless ship adrift. This time, councils are backed by smart governance, real-time data, and actual consequences like performance-based contracts, budgetary rewards or reductions, and escalations when targets are missed. Transparency and empowerment make cities compete on reputation. It becomes visible nationally when parts of a city are underperforming, and that visibility builds ambition. None of this exists today. There's no pressure for teams to do well. There's no ambition. I say places are ambition deficient. We have a huge deficiency of ambition in the country because councils have been hollowed out and disempowered. And I want to leave you with this. It's you who has to fund the civil sector, and our population growth cannot sustain this exponential increase in cost, especially when the quality of services has only declined. It's not a foregone conclusion that the country has to implode under its own weight, but that is the trajectory we're on. Most civil servants are hardworking people trapped in a broken structure. This isn't a witch hunt, it's an audit. Picture a civil service where the frontline roles are not stepping stones, but destinations. Where nurses stay nurses because they're paid properly, respected publicly, and supported structurally. Where a Garda doesn't have to burn out to be promoted. Where a council housing officer is empowered to make decisions without begging for permission. Picture a country where each local authority isn't just a box-ticking department, but a competitive force, with its performance visible on a national dashboard. You'd see the counties that are delivering housing, maintaining roads, keeping parks clean, and responding to citizens. And when something goes wrong, there's a name, a fix, a consequence. Ireland could become a case study in civil reform. A small country that used its windfall not to paper over the cracks, but to rebuild the nation, efficient, proud, and agile. A place people want to work for. And most importantly, a place people want to come home to. We already have a blueprint. This is the blueprint. We can just follow this. And we have the tools. And thanks Apple, we have the money. All we need now is the leadership. Because if we don't act, if we let this slip through our fingers, we're not the victims of a broken system. We're accomplices. The state should exist to make life easier. It should serve, not smother. Empower, not confuse. Deliver, not delay and dilly-dally. Because if we built a system that worked for people, people would believe in the system again. And maybe, just maybe, we can live in the kind of country our ancestors dreamed of and fought so hard for.